Recently, I had a chat with a very successful full-time landscape photographer. He doesn't run workshops, he doesn't sell courses or has a YouTube channel. How can somebody exist like that in 2025? I think we should find out. I'm really excited about this video because it's packed with words of wisdom from somebody who does make his living from landscape photography, from selling his art. And he knows what he's talking about. Who doesn't dream of giving up their mundane job to pursue landscape photography as a career? Well, the problem is so many people that actually are brave enough to do that quickly realize that they struggle, so they have to start looking at other ways to bring in revenue. They can't find enough clients on a regular basis to buy their photography. So they start running workshops to teach landscape photography. The second thing is maybe selling some digital products or, well, start a YouTube channel and work with brands to try and sell you gear for a commission to make a little bit of extra income. Some will tell you, and I'm not making this up, that there is no money in landscape photography. Photography in general is worthless now. One negative YouTuber recently stated that there's probably only one or two people in the entire world who can make their living from landscape photography. Well, lucky me, because my friend Peter is one of those guys. So enough of this chit-chatting. Let's go and talk to Peter and see what he's got to say. So Peter, your career was in IT as a consultant, and 10 years ago you gave all of that up to do something, I think it was incredibly brave, and that is pursue your love of landscape photography and become a full-time landscape photographer. What made you do that? I mean, what led you to decide, like, that's it, I just want to change careers?
So I'd been working from home for a number of years, doing programming, database design. So I was stuck behind the desk, behind the computer all the time. I didn't get a chance to see people, talk to people very often. So what I like about photography is that it lets me get out into nature, out into the world. I meet people, get to talk to people at exhibitions. So it really opened up my world.
So very much, the social element is very much part of it.
Yeah, I still got a chance to use computers. I always found computers just so easy to use. I've always had a love for exploring the back roads on motorcycle or car. So this gave me a chance to merge my love of driving around and exploring with photography.
What was the first thing you did, or the first thing you thought that you needed to do to move into this new career?
So it wasn't an instantaneous transition. I transitioned over maybe a period of around 5 years as I let the computer consulting side dwindle away and slowly the photography part took over. At the start, I didn't know what areas of photography would be successful. I tried around 5 different areas, everything from people to architecture to even pets. I always thought the art side would be the smallest side because it's one of the hardest to become successful at. But to my surprise, that ended up being the most successful. So over time, I let the other areas fall away.
What I find really interesting is that landscape photography, to make a full-time living from, is probably the hardest genre. And what I find absolutely fascinating with you is you're the only landscape photographer that I know, and I know a lot of them, that is making money from landscape photography by going out there and shooting and selling your work, and there is no educational component. I mean, most people do workshops and courses, and they start a YouTube channel and talk about landscape photography because that's the easiest way to make money and say, you know, I'm a landscape photographer.
So I kind of lucked out at the start. I had my first solo exhibition in 2015 in Toronto, and while I had the exhibition, Saks Fifth Avenue from New York was looking for Canadian art for their 2 Saks stores they were building. And they ended up buying my whole exhibition twice, 2 editions, so 38 pieces in total.
Wow.
And Saks is a big purveyor of style. And since they liked the work, that gave me the clue that it's something worth pursuing. Because until then, I wasn't sure. When you first start out, sales are really slow. Everything you do is just experimenting in the dark. You find out everything that doesn't work by trying things, doesn't work. And then eventually something works and you follow that thread.
Yeah.
And you just keep repeating it.
Yeah. I think you're right. You need to learn that for yourself rather than listening to advice out on social media.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to a guy on YouTube the other day who does landscape photography. He's got a channel, and he was saying there's probably only 1 or 2 people in the world that are making money from landscape photography. Well, you must be one of them. I mean, so just because somebody else has found that they can't make a living from it doesn't mean you can't. It just means they can't, and you clearly have figured it out.
Yeah, though there are others if you look at some of the galleries around the world, there are others who are doing it successfully.
Yeah.
And some have been doing it much longer than me and are much successful as a result.
When you started and you realised that it was shooting landscapes, that was the direction that you were going to take your photography. What would you say was your biggest challenge, your biggest concern to really move forward?
One of the biggest unknowns when you're photographing, when you're creating art, is that you don't know what other people like. You know what excites you. That was one of the biggest challenges, that the whole field is sort of a gray area of does this feel good?
Right.
It's not concrete like computers would be.
Yeah.
So that was a great challenge. I've always loved learning new things and new challenges, and photography gave me the chance to start learning everything from scratch. One of the other reasons that I switched from IT consulting was that I'd done it for so long that everything just came easy for me. There was no more challenge left there. And photography and art gives me a whole new world of infinite challenge.
I can relate. A lot of people that decide that they want to change careers and get into photography, whether it's maybe a way of generating some income on a part-time basis, or go full in and decide I'm going to be a photographer or a content creator. So many people are looking at social media as a sort of a beacon to sort of guide them. And what I find with social media is just a lot of sheep, a lot of copycats, and a lot of it is just, it's all about the gear and about techniques and fluff. People are looking what other people are posting on platforms like Instagram and thinking, oh, that's what's getting all the likes. That's what I've got to do. I've got to be like that, to be successful. Do you spend any time on social media? Does it influence you at all, or did it influence you? Or if it doesn't, where did you get your influences from to move forward?
So it doesn't influence me so much anymore. I don't spend much time looking at it. At the start it did. But I discovered that the internet is such a vast world. To compete and feel like you're getting anywhere, it just seemed futile at the start. So what started working was I started acting locally. I joined a local art group, which gave me the reason to print and frame a real object in the physical world, not just a picture on the screen that people just swipe away one after the other. So that gave me the reason, these group exhibitions, to continue to the next step. Because before then, my interest was on and off. I used to be interested for a few months, then it fell away, interest fell away, but I didn't have a concrete reason to keep doing it. So till the external reason came, and these local art groups gave me that reason. That's what really started to give me traction. And then you start comparing yourself on a local scale, which seems a lot easier to take than comparing yourself to the best in the world. And then slowly that's how you can get better. It gives you confidence.
So you had told me that after your first exhibition, a gallery actually started to represent you and help you sell your work. At that point, was the gallery focused on corporate buyers or private buyers, or was it a combination of both? Because I know now you're in a place where pretty much all of your work is private collectors. So how did the gallery help you, and how can you make that shift, if they indeed helped you, or whether it was other external factors?
So it was, the gallery helped put me in front of both private people and through the Saks Fifth Avenue sale that gave me the exposure to another big corporate sale that happened after the vice president of design of a large company was getting fitted for a suit at Saks, and he saw my work there. And so that led to a second big corporate sale. But in between all that, private individuals were buying my work. So it's been both at the same time. So one big important thing is that you have to always be out there. Being at home or being out in the field shooting gets you great pictures, but it doesn't advance your business at all. You have to personally be out in the world as much as you can, being part of groups, meeting people, going to galleries, going to exhibitions. The more you're out there, the more chances will happen that something will happen.
Right. But not connecting with other photographers, right? Because this is, I think, the biggest mistake that photographers make, is they're always online talking to their peers and, and trying to, it's like they're trying to sell to them. Well, they're not the audience, unless you're selling a workshop. So you didn't do that, right? You were very much focused on identifying who your target audience was that would buy your work.
And you have to go and be where the audience is. These exhibitions give you a chance to be where the audience is, or they come to you. So when you get especially a solo exhibition where it's only your work, the audience gets to know what you're about. They don't just buy your pictures, they also buy you as an artist. So you and your artwork is one unit.
Yeah.
People buy the whole package together.
Yeah.
They like you as an artist, and they like your work.
So that's basic branding, right? I mean, you don't buy Apple because necessarily the technology is better than Google, for example. You're buying into their story and what the brand represents.
And Steve Jobs knew that because he would personally give all the presentations, and that became a key part of why people loved Apple.
Yeah.
They loved him.
Yeah. So as the years went by, you decided to buy a gallery, to open a gallery. What made you take that another big jump?
So it was all a result of all the COVID lockdowns. Basically, the art world, all exhibitions, everything had shut down. There's no place to show your work. It just, everything stopped. So towards the end of COVID, once things started opening up, I wanted to do a test of the market to see if things would stay opened up. So there was an empty retail space here, this gallery, and I decided to do a pop-up show for about 2 or 3 months, I thought. So I did that, and it went so well that I decided just to stay. So I didn't plan on opening a gallery. I call myself the accidental gallerist. And I'm still here. It's been 2.5 years now. Wow. And I still have representation by the original gallery in Toronto, and now one in London, Ontario, and also one in Louisville, Kentucky. the Paul Paletti Gallery. I've had a couple of exhibitions through them. The end goal, if you want to be successful as an artist, is you can't just be local. You need as many places to show your work and hopefully sell your work, ideally around the world, would be the ultimate end goal.
Since you opened your gallery, you've obviously been selling the work that you've been accumulating over the years, but you started to get people come in and commission you to shoot on their properties. Tell us about that.
So that really started when I introduced a new series that I had, which was photographing barns around Ontario in a sort of abstract way. So people saw that I was photographing these buildings and they realized that they had properties with the barn. They started asking me, can I make an art piece from their property and their barn?
So the gallery's been open 2.5 years. At this point, what percentage of your work is commission versus selling, stuff that you're going out shooting on your own, stuff that you like?
Probably around 20, 30%.
Right.
No, I'd say about 20%.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I said stuff that you like. You're obviously not shooting stuff that you like.
Mm-hmm.
You're shooting stuff that people will buy, right? And I think, and you sort of touched on that earlier. You've got to understand who your audience is and what they want.
So I've been lucky that the things that I liked also were liked by other people. So I don't direct what I'm shooting towards really what people like. But it's stuff that I want to create, stuff that interests me and gets me excited. A famous photographer once said that if something doesn't excite you, why do you think it's ever going to excite somebody else?
So I'm going to guess that mostly photographers are watching this at this point, and of course everybody loves their gear, and I am sure people are wondering, what gear does he use? What does he shoot with? What gear are you using? What did you start out with, and have you changed what you're using over the years?
So I started with Canon crop frame cameras, the Rebel XT, and I moved into the full frame Canon cameras. All the work you see in the gallery here right now is from those cameras, the 5 DSR and the R5. 2 years ago I bought the Fujifilm medium format, the GFX 100 series camera, and it's right here. And the sole reason was that the full frame Canon, I was able to do pictures 48 by 72 inches, and I wanted to get to bigger sizes. And only very, very rarely, under perfect conditions, was I able to do a 5 foot by 7 or so foot picture with the Canon. Even then it was starting to push the limits.
Right.
So the Fujifilm will let me reliably do pictures up to that size.
So people are buying 7 foot wide pictures.
People around here, especially out in the country, they have very large walls. So they tend to buy larger as opposed to people in the city, especially ones who like to collect a lot of photography. They like smaller pieces.
Right.
So they can have more. But a single large piece it's a big statement.
Yeah.
It's both a big impact on how people feel looking at it, standing in front of it, but it also is a big impact on a large space.
One of your projects that I've really enjoyed looking at in your gallery are images that you call reductionist, as opposed to minimalist. Now, most fine art landscape photographers look at minimalist photography as the answer to creating fine art pieces, but you've got a slightly different thought process with that, and you call it reductionist. So tell us about that, the difference between minimalist and reductionist and your approach.
In some cases, I simplify the scene to just a few elements. For example, I might reduce a scene just to apple blossoms, leaves, and branches, nothing else. So that the result will be a pretty busy scene, just the whole picture covered with an abstract tapestry of those elements. But even though there's so much there, it's still just the three things of blossoms, leaves, and branches.
Right.
So it's been reduced down to its core components.
The way I'm seeing it is when people go out to shoot minimalist landscape photography, they're going out to find one simple object in the landscape and just create this minimalist photo. Whereas your approach seems to be slightly different in that you're looking for an interesting scene and you're looking to strip away as much as possible in that scene.
So that actually brings me to my motto, which is as little as possible, as much as necessary.
Right.
So I'm not trying to strip things down to absolutely nothing. I'm trying to create a balance between too little and too much. So on my artist statement, I have that phrase, as little as possible, as much as necessary.
Right. And these pictures over on the wall here, they are a good example of that. This is some of your more recent work, correct?
Yeah, the series is called Free and Easy Wandering. Artistically, it focuses on the meandering line in the landscape, but I draw parallels to our lives and how we follow unexpected paths. My career as a photographer has been an unexpected path.
So you're very much a promoter of your work. You've understood the importance of branding and marketing. Where does social media fit into that for you? And what do you think about social media? Because it's a love-hate relationship for so many photographers.
And it is for me as well. It's a must to be on social media. On social media or have a website, you almost don't exist. I use Instagram the most, but I do go through phases of posting a lot and then nothing, and posting and nothing.
So a platform like Instagram isn't really driving any sales for you as such. It's just creating some brand awareness.
I think it's the brand awareness, and then people who either have been seen your work, they follow you and they can see what work you're creating, what you're up to.
So it's very much a way for people that know you to get updates and keep track on what you're doing, right?
Yeah. And it's a way to be connected to the galleries you work with. I use Toronto Imageworks in Toronto for my printing and framing, so they'll post something of how they've framed and printed my work, and I tag them on some of the work, so it creates a synergy.
Did you want to say something about social media in general?
I did want to say one thing, is that and this is one of the best recommendations I can give to photographers. So one of the first things that I found was the big change in my approach was I stopped looking at websites and social media of other photographers. I started looking at art galleries around the world and what art they were selling and what their photographers and their painters were doing. I started going to art galleries to see exhibitions, because to see something in person is so much better than even the best computer screen. So it's looking at what the best artists in the world were doing and using that as something to follow, to be inspired by, rather than what photographers were doing on websites like Flickr or those kinds of websites.
Right.
There's incredible work there, but there's a difference between a beautiful photograph and something people want to buy as art for their home.
That's a very good point.
And that needs to be understood.
Where do you go from here? What's next? Do you have some sort of business plan in place for the next 3 or 5 years? And what are you thinking?
So I found that in art it's hard to have a concrete business plan because you don't know what will work. But I do have a direction and things I want to do. And that's to expand my reach both across Canada, into the States, and possibly other parts of the world. That's the long-term goal. And also to keep creating new work, to keep being inspired enough by things that I see to keep coming up with new ideas.
Right.
And I've been very lucky with that. When I first had my solo show, I suddenly realized that what now? An artist has to keep creating new work, getting new ideas. I keep having so many interesting ideas that I don't think I'll ever run out.
So when you say increase your reach, you mean through actual gallery representation and exhibitions, not through social media?
It's because as an artist, you're selling real physical objects, and you need physical places for people to see them. It's hard to tell on a screen the difference between a good piece of art and a great piece of art. The screen kind of equalizes it. I've looked at the work of some top world photographers, and it looked nice on the screen, and you get to the gallery to see the real thing and you're just blown away. You don't get that that feeling looking at the screen. Many times even a large screen is too small to see something this big in front of you, like a Mark Rothko painting. You're blown away by its presence, and the internet has no presence.
That's a really good insight. That's something that we should all take away from this, if nothing else. I totally agree.
Yeah, and that's why I recommend people to print their work, because then they can hold it. It becomes a real object, and artwork is a real object.
So on your photography journey, when you started and even now, are there any other photographers that influence you and inspire you?
So I've been influenced both by photographers and painters. Some of my photographers have been Michael Kenna, Japanese photographer Masao Yamamoto, and also Rinko Kawachi. She does color. And some German photographers, Andreas Gursky, Elger Esser, Candida Höfer. But also on the painting side, I've spent a lot of time looking at painters. One of my favorites is abstract expressionist Mark Rothko. I've also looked at Japanese sumie painting. I have a background in music, so I've tried to bring some ideas from music into visual art. So I try to study as much as I can. I haven't had any education in art or photography, so it's all up to me to study it. Galleries that's where you find the world's greatest art. I collect photo books from many of the people that I mentioned. It's a way that you can sit down with your morning coffee or tea and just leaf through, be inspired, be interested.
Well, you've been influenced by those photographers and painters. I think we here today have been influenced by you. So I really appreciate your time, Peter. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Peter Dusek. Did I say that right?
You did.
I got it right.